Hello everybody,
Hey.
welcome to our newest dev stream. I am HB. We have with us Stephan, one of our programmers.
Hey guys.
Extraordinary, as Matt would say. And we also have Mark.
Not quite as exciting.
Not
to
quite.
see you guys see me.
You're like,
Yeah.
you're like,
Eh.
it's Monday meet. We've seen each other, we've seen you already, doesn't matter. Let us know if there's any problems with audio because I'm the one helming the stream, so fuck ups are bound to happen. And with that, how has been the last 2 weeks for you guys?
It's been crazy. It's been nuts. You know what? I think we always say that, so maybe we should just stop saying that because it's gonna sound like a.
The nature of game development is that every single week is crazy and nuts.
Yeah,
So
and then we just
that's
don't need
not
to
here.
ever say that again. It's always crazy, right? But no, it's been like I guess yes, it is crazy every time. But this last week was especially stressful. Trying to get the amphibious update out the door was a huge ordeal, and
Jesus Christ.
again, this is gonna sound like a broken record, but it almost didn't make it out, right? And it's it was 5 o'clock on Friday, and we were making a call, and I maybe not 5, it was like 4, and I came up to your desk, Stephan, if you remember.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, we're gonna make the call. We're gonna push this back unless somehow we can pull like a miracle out of our ass and fix this final bug. So there are a lot of bugs still, but there was actually one bug that existed last week all the way up until an hour before we launched the update, where it was a showstopper. Like there's just no way we can launch with it. And luckily, I don't know how it happened. We just tried our hardest, I guess, and we figured out the bug during the final hour, and we got the update out. And there's a lot of issues. We'll talk about that later, but we are glad that it's out. And we really didn't want to push it back because we had already pushed back the schedule on that. Once when we launched the game, we said it was going to come out like a week or two after launch. Then we pushed it back again to around the beginning of September, and then we pushed it. We said, okay, finally it's going to come on September 14th. So we really didn't want to, and then we pushed it back again, actually launched on the 15th. So we didn't want to push it back any further, but we learned a lot of lessons with it. It was a learning experience for developing such a large feature, and I don't want to get too much into it because we're going to talk about it later, but that's kind of what's up, right?
It seems like every feature that we push out is a learning experience.
Yeah, when are we gonna come on this stream and say
hey, we got this all figured out.
That update went 100% perfect, and
Not
we
even
have
a
no
problem.
problems, and we weren't rushed, and yeah. But I don't think this is like a unique thing to us, right? I think almost any team that makes games will just have the same type of feeling as us, right?
Yeah.
Like it's always gonna be feeling like a
Especially
rush.
if you're doing such a giant. I think if we were still doing the games that we used to do in the past, it would be different by now. But right now we're doing this giant game with thousands of players doing things that some games haven't even done before.
It's
kind of
harder.
crazy.
I mean, it's harder, but you are trading some things too, right? Because one, it's like an early access game, so we don't literally have to fix every single bug in the game.
Yeah.
But launching our last game on the Xbox One, for example,
Yeah.
that was pretty stressful too.
That was
right?
oh my god.
And,
yes.
And going through CERT, you were a huge part of that, Stephan, and how many times I heard you swear at your desk. So
Probably
maybe
constantly.
you weren't swearing, but you were really frustrated.
I'm the one that swears at my desk.
I think you were the one that was swearing, and it's always. Yeah, no, there's always it's never calm. But anyways, enough about it's hard to make games type of speech that we always give you guys at the beginning of every stream. And
How was your week then? Let's move into more upbeat. How was your week, Stephan? Let them hear your sultry voice.
Yeah, how was your week, Stephan?
I mean, it was hectic. It was good. I think we got a lot of stuff that we needed to get done for for the update, but like as you were saying, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of rough edges that we really want to get to, and that's kind of, I'm like looking forward to this week and the next to be doing that. But I'm happy to take a little bit of a breather because last week was
it was insane.
It was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, there is one thing, just kind of like unrelated to any of this thing that I just want to talk about for like a second is you know, every so often, like the last few weeks, actually the last month, we're seeing like a comment that is mentioned very frequently. It's like, oh, the player population is lower than it was in the last month. There's less servers and stuff like that. And I think I just wanted to like say something about that. I think that's something that we need to be on the same page about, is that most games after they launch will go through a similar life cycle that we're going through right now. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can just go search for any multiplayer game that isn't PlayerUnknown's Battleground, by the way, because that's a whole different story. But any other multiplayer game going into early access sort of runs this course of like, there's a huge spike at the beginning, and then it goes down, and eventually it kind of settles at some point. I think we're kind of close to the settling point. I think the players' numbers will probably drop like a little bit more, but what ends up happening usually in the life cycle is like a couple of months down the road after launch, through a sale or through like updates or a combination of both things, you know, like you'll get back these like spikes. And then it sort of goes up and down for a while until eventually kind of settles, and then some point later maybe there'll be like a free weekend or something, and that kind of brings the whole population up again.
Which we actually saw that like with the last update with the maritime introduction. We actually saw a spike in players.
Yeah, it was a small one, right? But a lot of times what a lot of games do is they'll coincide a sale with like a large update, and that tends to drive the most amount of traffic. But the point I'm trying to get at is I think we have like a healthy curve. I don't think, and quite frankly, many more players than we thought that we would have at the beginning of this whole thing. And you know, we should like keep our eye on it, but I think it's still healthy, right? And I guess we don't worry about that as much because we don't see this as a short-term thing. We don't see it as like, we launched the game and now there's no players and we're gonna say, screw this game, we're gonna go on and move on to the next one. Like, we see this as a very long trip, long journey, right? It's gonna be a long time, and this is just kind of like the first step. So through that lens, it's very different. It's just almost like a stepping stone to a larger thing. So just kind of wanted to share some of our thoughts on that. But I don't know, I guess want to move on to some.
Let's go for actually start talking about we're here to talk, not our lives and our worries.
Is it slowly going to turn into like a support group? Or you know, talking about our personal problems and things like that. But
anyway,
community highlights.
Yes, community highlights. Once again, we are here in 2 weeks later, and we have more community things. This one was pretty cool. Yesterday I posted the community highlights, and this one I liked. We're not gonna play with audio this time because last time we had like people complaining about the audio being like either too low or too high. So this time, screw it. Like, so just don't forget to mute it after we.
Okay, so I'm gonna hit play.
Yeah, you can hit play. This is a video. This is a video by Pythas, if I'm not mistaken. This is actually really cool. It was already in the last community highlights. I already included this one, but I included it again because he continues to make videos and he's doing tutorials. But he's doing small tutorials, like 1-2 minute tutorials.
It's like a series, right?
It's a long series. He already has like more than 20 something videos, like 23 or 24 videos right now. And each one of them like talks about one specific aspect of the game. So this one is talking about the radio towers, right? And it's really cool because he talks in a very like clear manner, like this is what they're for, this is how you use it. Like it's very, very easy to understand,
Mm.
you know, and it's a different kind of tutorial that I haven't seen before, like with all these like piecemeal information that you can just go search for the one, and he's still doing them. It's a series, as I said, and I think he deserves some showcase. It's very well produced, very well done.
Yeah, this one. Sorry, do you want to say something?
No, I just said nice. I didn't know these existed.
Yeah, this one was not on my radar until I was actually looking at these slides, and I was gonna say that I'm definitely going to feature this in the news and highlights
Yeah,
reel on the main menu of the game because I think it's a fantastic series, right?
it is really, really well done. It's really good. So kudos, Pythos. I hope that's how I pronounce his name.
And oops, I came under the whole thing.
Oh, that's okay.
So-
We're used to that.
Yeah.
Second thing is this, which is just this is an interesting thing. This is like a journal created by Bud. The Colonial Fox issue #1. It's like it's like a newspaper, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about fallen heroes and a particular player that a particular character, I guess,
Yeah.
that died, and this is sort of a
This was really awesome. I think this is like in my top 10 sort of like all-time favorite things from the community. It's like when I saw it, it really blew me away. I think the first page was like really high quality. I think this is the second or third page or something. But if you want to see the whole thing, go to the community highlights post, and it's really well produced. It's like really high quality, and at first when you look at it, you're like, oh, it's just probably all like gibberish with the headlines, but it's not. Like all the content in the text there is based on like real stories that I think are from the game. I think it's actually
these are things that happen and stuff
was-
like that in the game.
I was
which is really cool.
blown away by this one. This is like one of the best things I've seen so far. It's really, really cool. I think we had some like journals in the past that were also really cool. Like the war journals, if you remember them.
Yeah, I remember
But
those.
I think that they didn't fill the content, like the actual text in it, where it was not.
Yeah, this one is really, really well done. And also the last thing that we're going to talk about in the community highlights. Actually, there are two things that I wanted to talk. I know I only added 3 in our presentation, but there were actually 4.
Mm-hmm.
The third thing that I would like to mention at least is also tutorial. There are tutorials made by other people from other regions. There is a pretty interesting Russian tutorial that is in the community highlights. It's like an update video, like the ones from I Saw Bear or Con Movie Maker, in which they talk about what are the new things and stuff like that and how they are used. But it's in Russian, which is cool because we have a big Russian population of players.
Yeah.
And the last thing I wanted to talk about was these highlights from the community league. In this case, it's I think we're back. Let us know if we're still online. It seems like we are. Sorry about that. We have a little hitch on our connection.
That's why we need Matt.
Yeah, Matt is the one that. Are we back or
Yeah,
not?
I think they mentioned.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm.
Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Yep.
So I don't know where I was, but I was describing what the FCL was. For
Let's go back to that. Yes.
Yeah, it's a competitive league for Foxhole, run by the community, and they run matches on Saturdays, and it's kind of like a tournament style thing. So if you're interested, you should get in touch with them.
Yeah, it's really cool. They are going like I think right now it's like it's the best of two. They're in a very final, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I'm not sure the exact state. I know last week was like their 5th week, I think, and they're So I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't know the exact state.
But they're doing their first season. Their first season is like ending very soon. And it's gonna be you guys gonna be able to play if you have like a clan that you want to play later. I know that they have intentions to do more than one season, and it's really cool. We try to help as much as we can, but we don't have any like hand on it. We don't influence in any way.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Yeah. But in this particular video, I think this is highlights, right?
Yeah, these are highlights of this particular matchup. The
Right.
erotic versus.
Is this from the last week or is this from like?
Yeah, this is very recent. Yeah.
Okay. There was one match I saw like I think 2 weeks ago that was like really really close. It was between Pug and one DFP, and it literally came down to like the last 15 minutes.
Nice.
And it was like one side knocked out the town hall, which is like the final objective of these matches is like the town hall at the middle of
Yep.
Fisherman's Row, and they knocked down the town hall just like shortly before the whole thing finished. But then the other side managed to like rebuild it, and it was a really intense match, and it's just as fun. I mean, I haven't actually played in it obviously, but I feel that watching those matches are really fun. It's as fun as like playing the game. So if you're interested, you should definitely check this out.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's totally worth giving a shot. So yeah,
I guess
you saw some of those, right, Stephan?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Are they? They're all on Fisherman's Row right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
The FCL matches.
Yeah, because they have special rules. So it's not like you capture the whole map to win. You have to whoever holds the town at the center.
Right.
At the end of the 3-hour mark,
Yeah.
wins.
Right.
Right. So and it's like a 20v20 match. It's
Right.
not like a 70 versus 70 match. So that's cool. So we're gonna move on to some community suggestions, and we have quite a few of them this week.
You want me to read them?
Yes, please.
So
You
this
don't
one-
have to read the whole thing, but just
Well,
Yeah.
that's hard to just.
Fair
This
enough.
one was about squad loadouts. Currently, when organizing a squad of men, there is no way to determine what friendly nearbys are carrying without asking them. Having to ask a squad of 5 guys what they got is tedious and time consuming. Let's take a step back and about forming the squad in the first place. Currently, you open the team list with F1 and sort through all of it to add members to your squad. This is unnecessary. You want to have people that are in your squad right next to you on the list. So the idea is to make the radio menu context sensitive.
yeah.
So when there's friendly players around you, and
Yeah.
also have options to invite
Yeah,
squad.
yeah, exactly. So like the gist of it, I think, was that rather than having to go to the player menu, you
Yeah.
can just like right click on a player and expose all these options, right?
Yes.
I think this is like an awesome idea.
Yep.
I think this should happen at some point. It's really annoying in the game right now when you see a player, and even if you want to like mute him
Yeah.
or her, you gotta press F1, find the player,
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
click on the mute button.
140 player list.
140 player list, which luckily is sorted now. Remember the old days of no sorting? Jeez,
Yeah, that was insane.
that was insane. I don't know how you guys even played the game then, but I think that's really awesome to be able to right click. And I think the extra feature on this was saying that you can see the loadout of a player,
Yeah.
which I think would be really cool too. I think a lot of this came from the frustration of not knowing like what the loadout of a squad is.
Yes.
Like, you know, it's different if you're playing in a clan, right? Like maybe
Mhm.
everybody already knows, but when you're just kind of in like a public situation, I know for myself sometimes if I want to play as like a medic, but I'm not sure if there's already like another medic, and often you end up with like 2 or 3 medics because you didn't know
Yes.
who was carrying like a med kit and who wasn't, and we didn't necessarily have the tools to see who's using what. So I think this would be really, really, really useful. I think even being able to like transfer like an item or something through some mechanism like this would be really cool. So I thought this was great.
Yeah, I think this is particularly interesting just because it also ties in with the idea that we want to revamp the whole squad and how you deal with other players and the social aspect of the game. I was talking to somebody on their chat on like Discord, like literally like about half an hour ago about that, and that somebody was complaining, oh, this is insane. How do you deal with all these players and everything? And the idea is that yes, we want to take a closer look into the systems. I like this suggestion because it takes that into consideration and what we want to get out of the game as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And next one. So yeah.
Go on this one.
Yeah, I think I kind of read some of these, so maybe I'll just take a crack at trying to summarize them. So this one I think is like having like a wetsuit of some sort, or like some sort of a water suit, or some sort of suit that's useful when you're like in the water, and I guess it would allow you to swim and do certain things when you're in the water. I think this is a great idea. I think that something like swimming is something we're taking a close look at. I know you were taking a close look at this without saying anything too much. I know that I think you were taking a close look at that too.
Yeah.
Right.
There's been some exploration in that.
Yeah. I actually think that both of you guys have had some hand in taking a look at how feasible that would be.
Yep.
That would be really cool, actually. But
And I think that's something that I think this is a good way to like introduce something like that. So it's not like everyone can just swim anywhere at any time. It could be like if you have this suit, then you can do a lot of those things. But this would be more of like an exception, whereas like usually you have a lot of limitations that you have right now. Even if we did support swimming, I don't think we'd ever want to just make it like everyone can just swim anywhere anytime without any consequences, right? I think it will be fairly limited, right? It'd be nice to have, because one of the complaints I know you were having was that right now if you fall in the water, even besides thinking about swimming, it just looks really bad, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Something I've been playing around with, and I think would be really cool, is even if you do die or end up drowning, just like the idea that there's kind of like some water physics to your capsule, and there's like a moment where you're kind of trying to swim if you don't have like some sort of seal suit or something like that.
You don't pop into that state, right?
Exactly, or fall through the world, or all sorts of stuff where, I think that's something we really want to put like an extra coat of paint on and make it look good.
Better.
Right, because in real life when you fall in the water, your eyes don't just fall into the ground, then you might drown and struggle for a bit, but I thought this was really cool. I guess I'll take a crack at summarizing this one again too. Boring off. So this one was this was the vehicle husks, right? I think that this is I think it's community. Okay, I was to be honest. I picked all these suggestions to put in here, so I think they're all good. Right? Maybe
This is the one in which if a vehicle like is destroyed, some of it persists in the world.
Yes.
So people can use it as a resource node.
You can salvage them back, right? I think this is a really cool idea. And I think using it for cover is actually also cool. It's kind of like a two-in-one feature. I think this is something that we'd like to explore, even if it's not exactly this. I think the idea of like salvaging parts from like a vehicle that is destroyed is something that we're taking a look at in conjunction with some other larger revamp of like how vehicles are made, right?
Yeah, we have vehicles as a source of a lot of good team play, but a lot of problems as well on the way like teams work together.
Exactly.
So we are looking to see if there is anything that we can do to make that better.
Yeah.
And this is actually not something that wouldn't be too bad. Like this idea that is there of leaving some remnants wouldn't be too bad.
Like I think some of the stuff that you and I have talked about during the HB is the fact that vehicles kind of have a differing philosophy from like the items. It's still one of those things where it's like, I built this tank, it's my tank. I built this truck, it's my truck. And we see a lot of the same problems that we saw
before with the weapons,
right?
Yes.
It's like, this was my rifle, I made it. If you get close to it, then I'm gonna shoot you, and I'm gonna be really upset about it. And once we implement the stockpile system, all that stuff went away. So I think some of the stuff that we're exploring right now, I think philosophically at least, is very similar to what we did with the stockpile. So hopefully that's something we can explore further in the future, right? So
it's a really good suggestion. We like suggestions that
it's a great
take into account what our game is.
And,
okay, so we're gonna go to a new part of the dev stream right now. It's gonna be slightly different this time from the other dev streams. Usually we have like a big announcement or something like that, or a new feature. We had a gigantic feature just recently, like last week, like I don't know, 4 days ago or something like that. And because of that, we had a lot of feedback that we actually want to talk to you guys about.
Yeah, so I think what we're gonna do right now is take a look at a lot of the feedback we've been seeing, and a lot of this stuff is actually taken from the feedback thread that I posted last time on our subreddit, and I sort of just went through and took the top couple of features, and I think it's important, like you're saying, HB, like now that we have like this huge update out, rather than jumping to the next huge update, like with lots of content and stuff like that.
Let's see what we can do to make it better.
We kind of want to stop and like really take a look at some of these issues that have been mentioned over and over again, and because between launch and now, we've really been spending all our time on the amphibious update, right? So anyways, I picked kind of the top few things on feedback thread, because like I said, that's going to be where we're going to be taking the closest look at from now on. So if you want to get a message through to us, leave it on that thread, right?
Yeah, we do read those threads. Actually, we read a lot of things, but those
like
thread is one that we really do.
We read that the most, because one of the things that we've kind of found is the problem with just lots of different threads everywhere is that, one, it's very difficult to like sort through all the noise. Like, what is actually a problem and what is like one guy who's just kind of not happy with something, right? So I think that this is kind of a way that we can, I mean, it might not be perfect process, but it's a way that we can say, hey, voice your opinions on the current problems, and anyone else who shares that opinion can give that particular idea like upvote, so we kind of know what is bothering the most number of people, right? So anyways, getting back to the issue, this one surprised me a bit, because I didn't actually think that a lot of people were not happy with this, but apparently
it is something that we did mention before, actually.
We did, and it was the most upvoted, I believe, of all the issues, and I think it makes sense, right? I think it's just totally something that needs to happen at some point.
Personally, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, the idea of some visual feedback.
I was going to say exactly the same thing. I think the problem is that feedback of all kinds sometimes is a little bit lacking because it's so early in production, and but you're right.
Because a lot of content goes into a feature like this.
Yes,
right.
I know we talked kind of in passing about it before.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are also ways that we can do it possibly without trying to like tackle it through making lots of content too.
Right.
There's other solutions, but I think this kind of makes sense because from the strategic standpoint, you want to know perhaps which foxhole you should go after, which is the weakest one right now. Which like town garrison, what's the state of the town garrisons, right? Like, I think this is a really good thing. So yeah, we definitely think this is a problem, and we're definitely take a look at that. This one, late game futility leading to an unfun experience. This is a complex issue. This is a very, very difficult problem because there's, like many of the issues here, there are like two perspectives, and we hear perspectives. We hear from people on both with like both of the perspectives, right? On one hand, some people are like, they kind of want the chance to make a comeback, and it should be kind of fun to have a final stand, and maybe
if that happens, it's so empowering.
It's so empowering, and we've heard that from some players, and they don't want it to change, right? And then on the other hand, some people are like, oh well, if we're already losing, they should just make it like end sooner. Maybe there should be like a surrender option. Yeah. And because there's no point in like dragging out a losing battle, right? So it's a very complicated problem.
Compounding to that, we're like something that is mentioned on this particular feedback is maybe having the defenders have like a higher output or something like that of like ammo or something like that. but we always try to step away from anything that is just magically there,
Right.
just for the sake of balancing something. If we cannot do it in a more realistic way, or like on the actual the fact that you are in the defensive position
Right.
allows you to something different. That's more the way we like to go.
Absolutely.
And that makes it hard, of course. Like on a real situation, some people might be able to
Right.
flee and stuff like that, right?
But to further complicate the conversation, even if we were okay with that, let's say we were like, okay, let's totally do some sort of like
Yeah.
artificial balancing, right? You get more resources as an example,
Yeah.
right? There's the other problem of like, well, are you dragging out something even longer that should have ended? Like this
Because you added something that
like
is-
now it's like, okay, well, people that don't like the experience of losing and being on the losing side, now you're multiplying that by 3.
Yeah,
right?
so stalemates don't happen now in the middle of the game. Now it's gonna happen on the last town, maybe.
Right, and
Which
it could
is
just
like,
be worse for everyone,
yeah.
right? Like maybe the people that are winning, they just want to finish it off so they can start a fresh war. People who are losing are gonna be like, well, this is, it's dragging out. I don't want to play the game anymore because I'm gonna join another server,
Yeah.
right? So this is a very complex problem.
Arguably, there is a surrender option. You just leave the war, which is kind of a surrender. But then people argument that like, well, if the war starts right after that, after you lose, the winning
Yeah,
side,
yeah.
like
So
because it starts right away,
yeah.
the winning side I have more people. So like, there's so many like moving parts
Right.
that we have to like actually look
Exactly,
into.
and I think we kind of treaded on this other feedback that I kind of skipped to, so we can kind of talk about both of them at the same time.
Okay.
But the idea of like the team balance.
Oh yes,
right?
team balance.
And this one is also equally complex. And like the naive solution that I've seen thrown around almost constantly is like, you should limit the team size, right? But all you pre-alpha players know that we tried that before, and it actually has a very negative effect on the servers, right?
Yeah.
And that is that the player population slowly kills itself on that server, right? Because the winning side can't have any more people join, and in the losing side nobody wants to join. It only drags it down
Instead of dragging it out.
exactly until it gets to the point where there is like hardly anyone on that server, and then that's bad for everyone. That's not good for the losers. It's not good for the winners. It's just bad for everyone. Bad for the game. So that at least in a very simple form is not a solution. I mean, maybe it can work if it was more complex, right?
Yeah.
But just kind of like the brute force of that, it doesn't work. But some of the things that we are taking a look at least maybe not as like the ultimate solution, but like perhaps as like a short term or like a midterm solution is having something that could like balance the game. And even though we're not like entirely happy with doing some sort of like artificial system, we're okay with like trying it out, because sometimes the artificial system can be there in place and then lead to a better system afterwards. Much like what we did with like the requisition system first. It was kind of there to like stem that problem.
Yeah.
And then we moved on to the stockpile system after. So some of the stuff that like HB was saying that, is not the ideal solution, right? For example, just kind of, this is not what we're doing, but this is just an example, is like if your resource rate, if like the conversion rate of your resource, for example, becomes higher, if you don't have as many players on your team, is kind of an example of that, right? It's been suggested before, right? This is not a new suggestion, but it's something that like we're gonna try our best to like actually take that more seriously at this point in time, because we know it's obviously one of like
player balancing, like people on the chat right now, they're talking about, for instance, the biggest problem like is that people start to lose, and then like let's say half the team drops off, so it's like a 60 versus 30 or 60 versus 20, and then the war ends, and then the war restarts right away. Let's say the war restarts right away, so that people that were already there already are in the winning team have a huge advantage.
So
we understand that, and we are looking to ways to how that can be fixed as well.
So with that one, I think that one is one that we can maybe perhaps is not as complex of an issue. I think that one is something that maybe we can fix sooner. rather than later. It's
Yeah.
not this like nebulous, complex problem. I think maybe that one can be fixed by possibly something simple like after the war rolls over, it has to wait until it's somewhat balanced before the war
Before it
starts.
starts again, yeah.
As an example, right? Like I think that's not as complex. But I would also like to see some numbers on that too. Like I know it happens a lot, but I've been in situations where it hasn't happened too. So we'd like to see how, like, what's the ratio of that, right?
Yeah.
Like
Is it really a problem or just a
Is it
perceived
like-
problem?
is it like 80% of the time it's happening, or is it like more like 20%? But in the 20%, it really hurts badly because the war just ends in like 2 hours or something, right? So I think, you know, that's something that we want to take a close look at. So this one I'm going to reverse back on because I think this was pretty high up on that list too, is that reload not work correctly. So I was surprised at this because I thought we fixed it and I hadn't seen it for a very long time, but apparently it is still happening. And after I took a look at it, I think I know what the problem might be.
Oh, really?
And thanks for all the information on how to like reproduce it. It was actually really great stuff. I was like, hey, I didn't see this happening recently.
I thought
Your
we
mom was
fixed
like,
it.
no, you're wrong. It totally is happening. Here's how you do it.
Yeah.
And then I got like so many replies on exactly like I was doing this, and it happened. And that was fantastic. That's the kind of stuff, like if you ever want to see like a bug get fixed fast, if you spam us with like, this is exactly how you do it.
Yeah, like
That's-
telling us exactly how we can do
That
it
will-
on our side,
Right.
it makes it so much easier.
Like
I have no idea.
it will probably be fixed like probably like 10 times fast. I'm exaggerating, but it'll be fixed like I think at least 2 or 3 times faster than it would be fixed otherwise, right?
Totally.
Because otherwise we're just trying to struggle. Like our time is really limited, and I think a lot of times when we get a bug, because we have like so many bugs to fix, if we take a look at one and it's like okay, we spent like 2 hours trying to like reproduce it
and we couldn't.
and then we couldn't, it's like, do we keep spending another 2 hours and the whole day on it when there's like all these other bugs to look at?
Yeah.
We're gonna probably look at some of those other bugs that we can reproduce, that we can fix, and we can see like a result, right?
So yeah, if you have a bug, again, just to reiterate, because I'm seeing people even spam stuff on our chat right now, can you fix this? If you have a bug and you really want us to help us fix it, like the easiest way for us to be able to fix it is if we know exactly how to do the exact same thing. And like having like, oh, this is exactly what was going on, what was happening, this is what I was doing, this is what other people around me was doing, what server it was, and all that.
And I think that as a shout out to you guys, a lot of you guys do actually do
Which
that.
is awesome.
Totally.
Right?
Which
And
helps
that's
a lot.
and that helps us. That has helped us so much in the past, right?
Definitely.
And this
This one we let's what is this one?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'll touch upon this one really quickly. Sulfur respawn rate is too slow, and yeah, basically like we agree with this, and we did a temporary fix in the current update, so they do spawn faster. But I think in the long run, we want to do something where this was mentioned in like a reply by Louis, actually, the user who posted this, is that right now you get a lot of value just by being at the right place at the right time. You don't really have to put in like a lot of effort. You just, if you happen to be there when self responds, well, like you're in luck. You get to use it. It's more like a luck system.
Yeah.
But he was saying how it should be like it should be more like readily available to like get sulfur, but to turn it into something useful, that should take some kind of effort. And I think that is most likely the approach that we want to take in the future, right? Let's see if there's anything else. Okay, no, not much else.
Okay, so we're gonna move forward. Thank you very much for all the suggestions, and thank you very much for all the feedback that we got after the update, because it really did help. It's such a we did tests internally. We did tests with like some like on the dev branch, but every time that we post something as big as this one, and we have like lots and lots of players playing, there's so many bugs and things that we haven't foreseen that are bound to happen. Every time that you guys report to us, we try our best to read everything. We try our best to actually understand what's going on. Definitely. And if it's imbalance, if it's something that is imbalanced, we're gonna look into it. If it's something that is broken, we're definitely gonna look into it. No question. So thank you very, very much for all the help. That's why we're in early access.
And we're gonna make another feedback thread after this
stream,
so you guys can do it. But one thing I did want to say about like the amphibious update, right? Just for like, just so you guys know and you're on the same page, like we did know it was rough, and we did know there were some bugs, and we just had to make this really difficult like decision on whether to like postpone it
Release
another
it
week, or actually have something that you guys can play that we thought was stable enough to play. So it wasn't like a black and white answer, and we knew there were some problems. It's arguable whether or not that was like the perfect call, but we made the call, and it is what it is. So one thing that we are going to be doing first is we're going to be working on like an update, and I guess we're a bit rushed on time, so maybe I'll just like skip.
No, we can talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
So one thing I did want to actually talk to you about, Stephan, because you're here today, and be good if like we could talk about something. is some of the kind of like the top challenges that you faced, because Stephan was one of the main engineers that worked on like the landing ABC and the barge and the whole like water system. So I think it'd be cool to share some of that.
Yeah, Matt also worked with me a lot on kind of integrating a lot of that stuff into the maps. Because it was kind of a joint effort. We needed a lot of new mechanics and vehicles, but also the maps needed to be like completely revamped in terms of like water volumes and geometry and stuff to support that. So one of the things that was very difficult in the beginning was kind of getting that done with Matt. Before the game had these like pain volumes in all like the rivers and ocean areas that would basically just do damage to your character or vehicle, and kind of it would set up the bounds of the map, but there was no sort of like water physics or anything like that. So the first step was like replacing all those volumes with like proper Unreal 4 water volumes that had like fluid friction and all that stuff.
which allows for cool things like when the barge falls into the water, like drops back, and something that we're always working on.
Exactly, yeah, and it has by default like friction that changes with depth. So like the deeper you go into like a water volume, like the less fast you'll sink and etc. But we kind of figured out early on that just setting up these complex geometries that perfectly hugged rivers and oceans didn't actually work very well. We're going to look into it more going forward, but basically a big problem was it wasn't capturing collisions properly when you had complex sort of water volume brushes. So that was something that hit us early on. So basically now we've got these big boxes underneath all of the maps, and that's also been difficult to balance. And
I think that all the time, like we want to start doing like water, we thought like, oh, this is, we're just gonna do the water, and like it's a vehicle on water. What's wrong with that, right?
Yeah.
And well, then, I think we set like a terrible like precedent. Well, maybe it wasn't that terrible. Maybe it was a good thing in the end. But like in early access, we'd just be like, yeah, let's make a tank.
Yeah.
And then we just make it, and it's like, let's make a truck. Like at the beginning, let's make a vehicle. How hard can that be? And then we made it, and that pattern kept going. And then we're like, well, let's just make boats. How hard is that going to be? And it turns out that boats are really hard, right?
Yeah, and I think this is the first update that we've done 2 vehicles in one patch.
Yeah.
Yes. I think as well.
Which was a necessity of the new system, the way we were implementing.
Yeah.
But it also, of course, squared the complexity of the update.
Definitely.
It has to work for both of them, and one on top of each other actually, which is
exactly. They started interacting in ways, and that kind of leads into I think the second most difficult part was kind of getting the players interacting with these new vehicles. We're still working on that. Obviously, there's rough edges, but it's less rough than it was initially.
So if people die now because they fall from the back, it's a little bit better than what it was when we first implemented it.
Yeah,
Let's say.
but that's also on the top of our hit list right now as far as issues go. But all of our other vehicles, I'm sure everyone knows, kind of work. They have these big bounding boxes, and then you like step up to them, and you can hit a key, and you're kind of put into a slot. This is the first time we tried experimenting with a more free form,
in which you can literally just walk towards the vehicle and like hop on top of it, which
and surprise,
changes the whole game.
It makes things a lot harder.
Like on the technical aspect, oh boy, it's not just walking, right?
When you have a big vehicle being simulated on one person's machine with internet latency being sent to the server, then also being simulated, that is kind of defining how another player somewhere else in the world is moving, and then they're sending their it becomes a harder problem.
Actually, one thing that this is kind of like a sidebar, but I thought it's kind of cool, is that the bug that I talked about that was almost the showstopper, right? We have to do like final confirmation, but that's actually was not only a fix to that showstopper, but potentially a fix to this long problem in the game, where on a rare cases the vehicle might appear in like a different location on one client than it does on like the others, right? So basically we were forced to fix that hard bug in like 1 hour essentially. And like we fixed it, but I thought that was kind of cool that because the reason why it was hard to find that feature in the past is because that bug only happens, as far as we know, when the vehicle itself on one client, right, is kind of like on like a moving platform, right?
Right.
Or it's kind of like if you want to explain the
otherwise it was hard to kind of tell that the bug was happening, if that makes sense. But it was the player who last drove the vehicle, their client thought that they were still driving and authoritative over the movement of that vehicle. So it caused problems when the barge started to move away, that the vehicle would stay in space. And we think that is the same thing that's happening with trucks in the game. If you get out of a truck and then someone kind of runs under it or something, wears it as a hat or something like that,
then it can trigger that same sort of logic.
That's right.
These are the fun things that we had to do for the update.
Do we have time for one more cool thing?
Yeah, of course.
I personally thought was really cool is how we got the water to not be inside the land APC.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So that seems like a trivial thing, but if you notice, there's like a water plane, but on the interior of the land APC, there is no water. Magic, right? Just happens.
Yeah,
that was a nightmare as well.
I remember getting the piece of art from those guys, and I'm like, oh, so it has to sit under the water. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. I think first we tried kind of like displacement and tessellation to kind of like move all the vertices of the water kind of under it. It didn't look that great, and was also kind of a high specs PC only feature. So what we ended up doing is now we render like a box, but we don't render it to the main G buffers, like the main frame buffer of the game, but we render it to like an off-screen buffer known as the stencil buffer, which you can basically write anything to, and then the water shader just goes in and reads that mask out basically, and doesn't render those pixels. I think it still can look maybe a little bit better if we do some like depth masking a bit more on the edges. It looks a bit kind of like just a straight up cutout right now, but it doesn't look like it did before, where everyone was underwater in the chamber.
It's a very easy thing to understand. I know that everybody that works with programming will be thrilled. It's actually pretty cool. It's a new way for us to do things, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
like at least on that front. It's not that we haven't used.
Yeah, our other use of the stencil buffer in the game right now is the outlines.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Characters.
We haven't used it before.
Yeah.
Cool.
But anyway,
so,
let's do the one last thing,
Yeah.
and then we're gonna.
actually, it'd be good to know how much time we had left.
we have like 15 minutes.
Okay, cool.
So we're
Yeah,
good.
Great.
Let's do like a little
Yeah.
bit of
So I did want to talk really quickly about
this. It's gonna be quick.
the amphibious update. Sorry. So we're gonna be doing a hotfix, hopefully this week, and we're gonna be. We've taken a look at all the feedback that you guys have written. It's been like a couple days now, and some of the stuff that we're thinking of doing, I just want to list out right now, really quickly. First thing is landing EPC randomly killing passengers during transport. This is number one. Like,
Yeah, it's a bug that we have to fix.
we're gonna fix this, right? And then some other stuff that we found is like has to do with landing APC being kind of a little bit like overpowered in the context of being there at the start of the game. Like you basically have almost like a half track there, is
Yeah.
what I read from a lot of the feedback at the beginning of the game. Except it can do even more things. It can go over water. It has 6 people in it or more, and you can shoot 360 and whatever, right? There's a lot of things about it. So some of the balanced things that we're taking a look at, I've listed here. It's work in progress, but it'd be good to hear actually your feedback now, since we're thinking about this.
Yeah.
If
So
we hear even more
Post it
feedback
on the forum,
back
post it
about
on the
this,
Reddit,
that-
please.
Yeah, because I mean, another thing I just want to say really quickly is that there is a little bit of like a danger to balance so quickly, because sometimes there needs to be like a shakedown period
Yeah.
before people figure out actually what needs to be balanced, right? Because it's still early, but we do want to do a couple of things. So please let us know if you found something that is contrary to the findings that we have here. We would love to hear about that. No repairing from the inside is another thing that we're taking a look at too, potentially. And besides the landing APC, just a couple of like general things that were sort of like, whoop, snip that one for a second. Wasn't a big deal. One thing is potentially not allowing any kind of building on sand other than certain structures like tank traps and sandbags. Another thing that is, we kind of thinking about is right now landing PC on the barge, you can carry a lot, and because you can be encumbered when you move onto these vehicles, it kind of circumvents the whole like you can't enter vehicles when you're over encumbered. So I think this is something that we're probably going to take a look at too. Like maybe you can't move landing APC if there's like too much weight on it. As an example, barge is a little frail, and shipyard locations, we're considering this one. I'm gonna have to talk to Matt and see how he feels, and we're possibly thinking about moving the locations away, so taking shipyards won't be as painful. This is already hard enough to do a landing. So this is kind of stuff that we're taking a look at, and again, we're gonna try to get an update out hopefully this week or as soon as possible, if not. And other than that, one more thing I wanted to share really quickly was work in progress version of the Warden landing APC. This is a model, and that's actually Anthony's working on this, the new artist on the team. This is his first piece of work in Foxhole, and I think he's done a fantastic job. And hopefully we'll see that in the game at some point, not too far in the future. So
Yeah.
and that's kind of it. Oh wait, one more big thing.
There's one big thing.
Jeez, I keep forgetting. There's just too many big things, right? So there's gonna be a community event, like a developer/community event that we're planning. Actually, Crazy Flying Chicken was the one who did most of the planning.
Yes.
And he made a proposal. We actually at PAX we talked about something like this, and then he went and did some planning, and we actually are going to make this happen now. Next Friday we're gonna have this event, September 29th, I believe it is.
Yes. So
And
next Friday.
we're running a little bit short on time, so I'm not gonna get into the details of it. But basically, It's going to be an event with the developers and some of the community helpers.
Yep.
And basically, there's going to be like a final stand type of situation on Frontenac Coast where there are two other teams, the Colonial Wardens, that one of the factions is trying to kill Clapfoot and the community helpers, where the other side is trying to like save them, right? So it's, I'm personally
It's very
excited about
It's
this.
gonna be fun.
We always want to do these events, and this is like a lame excuse, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Is that we want to do it always, and then like we kind of run out of time. So thanks to Crazy Flying Chicken for actually making the effort
To actually put
to
this
push
together.
this
yeah.
through, and,
Totally.
and I think that's I'm looking forward to it. So we'll post the details after this, and I guess we'll move on to the Q&A. Cool.
Sure, yeah. So we're gonna move to the Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, please let us know. There's already some that are on the chat. I'm gonna start sifting through them. You guys don't have to read it. I'll do this.
Cool.
Otherwise, you guys get too distracted. The first one, it's from SP Scarface. Question: how do you guys plan on making it easier / possible to actually establish a beachhead? So that means like
Right.
probably because of all the problems with people spamming things.
Yeah, no, I think that I hope some of that was partially answered in the list of changes that we're planning to make, right? So I think the big one there is that will help with that is potentially make it so that you can't build your passive defenses on the sand,
Mhm.
right? So it'll be easier for you to actually make a landing and to try to really give you a chance so you don't literally like die as soon as your landing APC hits the sand, right? I think that's one thing that can help. I think it's important also, like I was saying this earlier, I think it's also important that like this is a new thing and there are balance issues, but I think it's also we're fighting the fact that it's a new challenge in the game
Yeah.
and that people need to figure out like it's not, you can't use the same tactics, you can't do the same thing. We did some like minimal like testing on landings and it was way easier for us, but obviously what we test here like in-house is very different
Yeah.
from like a live environment.
Yeah.
But I do think that there is a path to doing some of these things. So I'd say, yeah, I think that's where our minds are at.
I would say that in regards to, for instance, like the AI defense spam on beaches, I think it's the fix for that is not a fix for just that particular area. Any fix that we do for AI defense spam in general will have with that kind of problem. So it's not just on during like a landing APC invasion or anything like that. I think overall we have to look into those. Gamma 2987 asks, what is your opinion on quartermasters for both of you on the quartermaster role?
Want to go first?
Sure. I feel like that's a bit of a loaded question because I know there's been like people in the community who take it super seriously, and then other people who don't really know kind of like what that role should be or if it should be an official thing. I kind of am interested in anything that happens kind of organically through people working together and the gameplay. I think people choosing to play like as quartermasters and like organize equipment and supplies is like a cool example of emergent gameplay that I think makes our game special and interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much feel the same way. I don't think it's not our philosophy to sort of have these really like rigid roles in the game. We kind of just want to let people, like we give you the raw tools and it's up to you to figure out how you do things, right? I think if there is a problem, it's not so much that there isn't like a rigid role of the quartermaster. I think there's like a lack of information in the game in terms of that a person in charge of making items and like stockpiling weapons, they don't necessarily have enough information to do a good job. I think that's more of a problem than anything else. But yeah, other than that, I kind of feel the same way as you, Stefan.
Cool. Super Ambition asks, I think this is a Stefan question. Will we be able to use artillery on barge?
I think that's more of a gameplay balance consideration. I think there's no real technical problem with it, but it's more of a trying to figure out where that balance lies, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It did work.
Yeah, it did.
At the beginning, when we first implemented the barge, basically like everything worked. You can fire from the tank. It was insane. But I think it was a combination of like it did produce more variations of things that could happen that we didn't have time to necessarily think about and like address.
Yeah.
And then also there's the gameplay thing. We really want people to use like landing. I think if there's one thing is that, you know, a lot of people have asked for like, oh, can we have like an artillery bullet or something? And I think that's a cool idea to explore in the future. I think something like that's gonna happen at some point, right? Like a boat with like weapons that are mounted on top. But I think that we really want to see people land with the APCs and take the beaches, like at a closer range, not just kind of sit back and like bombard ashore until it's all clear and then you run in. I think we really wanted people to face the challenges of like landing on a beach. So I think that's one of the reasons why we didn't have that, right? But you know, who knows?
I have another interesting one here. I think this is cool. Cornell asks, do you have any plans to recreate real world scenarios, example Dunkirk?
As like a game mode, I suppose.
It was an open question, so
yeah.
I can probably say not as of right now, but what we want to have is options that can simulate some of the things that you've seen in real life. And
absolutely.
Let's say, for instance, now we have the APCs and we have beaches and we have tank stoppers and things like that. So because of that, players can understand what it might have been into a naval invasion that happened in real world.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have any plans, because particularly this is an alternate history game.
Yeah.
It's not World War I or World War II.
Yeah.
We don't have any plans to recreate, at least not right now, we don't have any plans of recreating any real life scenarios, but we want to make sure that the tools and the situations can happen again, right?
And I think that when it happens like that, it feels way better.
It's more organic. It's
like sometimes it'll be like, this is literally what I saw in the movie, but it wasn't canned, right? I think that's kind of like, you know, in Foxhole, I was seeing, like the other day I was talking to Outcast, and we were saying like, you know, the game has a lot of highs and it has like a lot of lows, right? And when the game, at the low points of the game, like, you know, you might encounter like a team killer, or like you just walked for 15 minutes and then you get killed, you forgot to set your spawn point and you gotta walk again, and you know, that's kind of like the low point of the game, right? But like, and that sucks, but I personally feel like the high points that you feel are like
these
way
moments.
better. You know, I won't say way better than like any other game, but I think it's like a very unique thing in Foxhole. Whereas like, if you do end up with like a Saving Private Ryan type of situation at some point in the future after we fixed all the bugs, right? Like that happens because players were trying to win the war, not because we set up a set piece. And you know, it's almost like this is not going to happen every day. It's not going to happen every hour. This was maybe like once every last couple of days. I happened to be a part of that, and that was one of the best experiences that I ever had, right? I think that's what we're trying to go for. But I guess having said all that, I think the only time that we would do something that we slightly can is maybe in like a special event, much
perhaps
like next Friday, you know. So
it is a campaign,
Right.
I think we have a little bit more time. We can have one question particularly for you. When are we gonna see World Conquest again, and how many maps is it gonna have?
Yeah, so that's a very good question.
I don't know who asked that. Sorry, I lost it. But anyway,
maybe the next question can go to Stefan, since he's only here.
Okay. I'll
answer
one
this
for him.
one. We love World Conquest, and I can say that we can't wait. We can't wait to bring it back. Like I literally think about it pretty much like night and day, and I want it to come back and I want to come back in a better way, right? So I guess I'll leave it at that.
Okay, let's see if something for Stephan. Will adding APCs to other maps be included in this week's hotfix?
You're asking me all the tough questions. Yeah, I don't think we're prioritizing that for the hotfix.
Yeah.
We're going to make, I think our priority is to make the APCs solid in Farnak and Endless Shore, to kind of enable these beach landings we want to see. That's our priority.
That's cool. Let's see. I think we have time for one more question, and the last question will be for all of us actually. Where is it? The tall Matt asked, be honest, how disruptive has been PUBG to the office productivity?
PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds?
What?
Actually, I don't think any of us really
No.
play.
I don't play. I feel
none
like
of
I'm
us
the only.
Actually,
I
do you
thought I
want
was
to talk
the only
about the
one.
game that is a disruption?
Okay, so there is a game that is a disruption right now,
Yeah.
which is Divinity.
Yeah.
For
Oh, yeah.
me at least,
Yeah.
I'm playing so much.
I haven't played it yet.
It's such a good game, and that studio, I think I just want to like take the time to say this. We have so much like respect for those guys. You know, like we talked to them at PAX and just a few weeks ago, and a whole bunch of us in the office are like huge fans of the work, and
Yeah.
we love their like philosophy. Like they sell you this game with so many features, so much content. You pay once, you don't pay for any microtransactions, you don't do anything, and it's just all about like they just make the best game possible.
And it's so good.
It's so good, and they're doing really well, and they have like a unique thing, and like what more can you ask for, right? And I have to say that I'm not gonna name any names, but there's other games that just they don't quite do that, and like I'm very disappointed when that happens. But you know, it's everyone's in a different situation, so it's a different like reality. But for Larian, I focus on the positive. For Larian, I have a lot of respect for them.
Yeah, they are fantastic.
I think they're fantastic.
Not only they are fantastic developers, they're also genuinely nice guys. Every time we talk to them, they're being
they're
so
very
nice
nice,
and so
yeah.
receptive.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's actually the game that has been possibly disrupting a little bit.
I went home and I played it for like 2 hours, and I'm like, I can't play this right now because I don't have time. I gotta wait until it's like the holidays, and I can just sit down and plow through this for like 100 hours or
And
something.
like every time I'm like, oh, I have some 5 minutes. I'm gonna play something, and then I have that's 5
We're
minutes.
launching
2 hours.
The amphibious update.
Okay,
last
no,
week.
you don't have to say that.
It was after hours, so that's fine. But I looked at HB screen and playing Divinity. I'm like,
On last
and he was
Friday.
like, well, I'm looking after the community on my other screen.
I had
and
Discord
I'm playing
open,
Divinity.
okay? It was the launch of APC. I had Discord open, so I was doing my job and it was after hours. But I was playing Divinity.
Yeah.
I gotta admit. Anyway, guys, thank you very much. I'm sorry you got, we didn't have time to answer all the questions. This is already running a little bit later than we expected, and we had some technical problems, so that's why. But thank you very much for all the questions. We're gonna be back in 2 weeks, same time, same thing. Hopefully without
And
any
watch the
problems.
community stream next Thursday.
Watch the community streams next not this one, on the next week. They
Yeah.
do every week that we are not on. The community stream does their own on Thursday. The gaming sir is very, 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 very insistent. Are we gonna have merch and t-shirts anytime soon?
Actually, Adam was talking about how we can set up. There's some service, I don't know what it is, but we can set up something where we can do something like that. So if more people want that sort of thing, then speak up. And if enough of the people speak up, I think there's a good chance it could happen, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So well, with that very last question, that's gonna be